while the rain lashed relentlessly against the Gulfstream G700's fuselage. A tempest of a different kind brewed within the cockpit. Captain Landon Vega's gaze was fixed on the woman poised in the doorway. His gaze flickered, a rapid assessment moving from the gleaming gold stripes on her epaulets to the rich, dark hue of her skin. No hand was offered, no acknowledgement given. Instead, he reached for the radio, keying the microphone with a voice that oozed a chilling, understated venom. "Tower N700 Alpha here, demanding an immediate crew change." His tone sharpened. "Dispatch has foisted a diversity hire upon me, and I refuse to fly with such obvious liabilities." Convinced he was safeguarding his professional standing, he remained utterly oblivious. The woman he was so determined to remove from his aircraft didn't merely possess the skill to pilot it, she held the very title to the land beneath his feet. A chilling October rain rendered the Teterboro Airport tarmac treacherous. This was the sort of inclement weather, Captain Landon Vega often mused, that truly distinguished the novices from the battle-hardened professionals. Landon carried his 3 decades of flight experience not just as a resume, but as an impenetrable shield. He had commanded commercial airliners for 20 years, before transitioning to the intensely profitable, high-pressure realm of private charter aviation. He was accustomed to unquestioning respect, to reigning as the unchallenged monarch of the heavens. Now, he occupied the left seat of the immaculate Gulfstream G700, a $60 million testament to cutting-edge engineering. His hands glided over the yoke, his gaze sweeping across the primary flight display. This wasn't just any charter. Their passenger was an influential tech titan from Silicon Valley, a man infamous for both his short temper and his vast fortune. Flawless execution was paramount. "Sarah." Landon snapped the order over his shoulder, his eyes still forward, presuming the flight attendant had already entered the cockpit. "Ensure the scotch is properly decanted. Mr. Pendleton despises any delay for his drink to air it. I will certainly relay that instruction to Sarah once she comes aboard, Captain." That voice was decidedly not Sarah's. It was a calm, alto timbre, imbued with an unmistakable authority that caused Landon's fingers to freeze mid-air. Above the flight management system, Landon abruptly swiveled his chair. There, framed in the cockpit doorway, stood a woman he had absolutely no recollection of ever encountering. She possessed a commanding height and flawless posture. Her uniform, impeccably tailored, was pressed with such precision it seemed capable of slicing through solid glass. Her hair was drawn back into a stern, professional bun, yet it was her face that truly captivated Landon's attention. She was a black woman, youthful, far too young in his prejudiced view, and her gaze met his with an air of detached, cool assessment. Landon exhaled a brief, contemptuous puff of air. The cleaning crew should have completed their duties by this point. "You're pushing the timeline. Our client is due to arrive in merely 30 minutes. The woman remained utterly unfazed. With deliberate composure, she stepped completely into the cockpit, setting a substantial leather flight bag onto the unoccupied right seat, the designated position. "For the first officer." "I am not the cleaning crew, Captain Vega. My name is Naomi Banks. I am your assigned first officer for this flight segment to London." Landon's gaze darted from the flight bag to her face, a silent testament to his disbelief. A profound silence enveloped the confined cockpit, broken only by the low thrum of the avionics cooling fans. A slow, disbelieving smirk crept onto Landon's features. It held no warmth, no welcome. "This must be a joke," Landon scoffed, his gaze snapping back to his instrument panel, dismissing the situation like a poor attempt at humor. "Operations explicitly guaranteed a seasoned first officer. I specifically requested Hoffman, or perhaps Lewis, someone with substantial flight time. Hoffman is sidelined with the flu. Lewis is currently on the Tokyo route," Naomi stated calmly, settling into her seat. Her actions were precise and unhurried as she began fine-tuning the rudder pedals. "You have me, and I can assure you, Captain, my flight hours are more than sufficient." Landon spun his chair once more, his features tightening. Any trace of his previous amusement had vanished. "Listen, I don't care who you've charmed in human resources or what diversity metrics they're attempting to satisfy this month for their glossy publications. But this is no mere training exercise," he continued, This is a G600, a formidable machine. It's not some Cessna 172 you might have idled around in during flight school. Naomi froze, her hand suspended above the pre-flight checklist. She slowly rotated her head to meet his gaze. Her eyes, dark and resolute, held his. I am type rated for the G700, the Global 6000, and the Boeing 737. Furthermore, I possess 4,000 hours of command time. Now, shall we proceed with the pre-flight checklist? Or would you prefer to continue squandering precious time debating my qualifications? A vein throbbed visibly in Landon's forehead. He was unaccustomed to such defiance, particularly from someone who defied his preconceived notions of a pilot. In his experience, aviators mirrored his own image. Landon, an older man etched with a certain rugged fatigue, saw Naomi as someone more suited for a fashion magazine cover than for expertly maneuvering a jet through challenging crosswinds. Command time, Landon sneered, leaning back and folding his arms dismissively. Whether it's flying cargo in remote areas or logging simulator hours, I'm well aware of how some individuals inflate their flight records. You're fast-tracked because airlines are perpetually terrified of potential lawsuits. I earned every single hour, Captain, Naomi retorted, her voice deepening, acquiring an unyielding, steely edge, and I strongly suggest we direct our attention to the departure. Mr. Pendleton is known for his punctuality. Don't presume to lecture me about my client. Landon snarled, his voice sharp, and don't get too settled in that seat. You are not flying this aircraft. Naomi simply arched an eyebrow. I am listed on the manifest. I have submitted the flight plan, and the fuel tanks are full. Unless you intend to pilot this jet solo, which is strictly illegal for this charter operation, you require my presence. Landon unfastened his seatbelt and rose, his imposing figure casting a shadow over her in the confined cockpit. His intention was clear: to intimidate her, to force her to recoil, to offer an apology, to confess her inadequacy. Yet, Naomi remained utterly motionless. She calmly proceeded to initialize the navigation system, completely disregarding his imposing physical presence. I am not flying with you, Landon hissed, the words laced with venom. I do not trust you. This presents a significant safety concern. Effective crew resource management is fundamentally built upon mutual trust. When I look at you, I don't perceive a pilot. I see a token appointment, a statistic that will ultimately jeopardize our lives. Naomi ceased her typing, drawing a slow, deliberate breath, her hands settling gently in her lap. When she finally lifted her gaze, her expression remained inscrutable, yet her eyes held a piercing sharpness. Are you refusing to fly with me due to my professional competence, Captain, or is this refusal rooted in my race? I am refusing to fly with you because I am the captain, and I dictate who occupies that co-pilot's seat, Landon roared, his voice reverberating through the cabin behind them. Grab your belongings and get off my aircraft. I'm contacting dispatch immediately to secure a competent pilot for this flight. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming a frantic, chaotic rhythm against the windshield. The cockpit's air hung heavy, a chilling silence. Alara bypassed her flight bag, her hand instead delving into her pocket to retrieve a compact, leather-covered journal. With a decisive click of her pen, she opened the journal and recorded the precise moment. What in the blazes are you doing? Captain Thorne roared, his complexion darkening with rage. I am documenting this exchange, Captain Thorne, Alara stated, her voice unwavering. Refusal to operate without valid reason, insubordination towards an assigned crew member, and the deployment of prejudiced remarks. Captain Thorne let out a derisive, barking laugh. Insubordination. I hold superior rank, my dear. You lack the authority to report me. I am the one responsible for submitting all official documentation. He snatched the satellite phone from its holder, rapidly keying in the number for the Chicago Charter Operations Hub. Alara observed him, her expression unreadable. She had no doubt who would answer the call. The voice on the other end would belong to Director Sterling, the head of operations. Sterling was a decent individual, yet he harbored a profound fear of confrontation and dreaded the prospect of losing Captain Thorne, who was, by all accounts, their most experienced pilot listed. Sterling, it's Thorne. Captain Thorne bellowed into the receiver. Yes, we've encountered an issue. Who on earth did you assign to me, Alara? Right, well, send her packing. I refuse to depart with her on board. A brief silence followed as Director Sterling responded from his end. Captain Thorne dramatically rolled his eyes, striding impatiently within the confined galley space directly aft of the cockpit. I couldn't care less what her records indicate, Sterling. I'm informing you, I sense a distinctly negative aura. She's conceited, prone to arguments, and quite honestly, she simply doesn't fit the required image. What? No, I'm certainly not uttering that on a monitored line, but you comprehend my meaning. She isn't part of our inner circle. Alara absorbed every single utterance. A familiar fiery ache ignited in her chest, the culmination of countless similar indignities. A multitude of instances where she had been undervalued and marginalized. Yet, she suppressed it. In the confines of a cockpit, both panic and fury served no purpose. Emotional responses were antithetical to proper protocol. Sterling, heed my words. Captain Thorne pressed on, his voice dropping to a hushed, conspiratorial rumble. Mr. Caldwell is shelling out $50,000 for this segment exclusively. Do you truly wish for him to board and discover a young woman occupying the co-pilot's position? He demands seasoned expertise. He expects absolute assurance. Should any mishap occur, if she falters under pressure, my pilot's license is at stake. I am canceling this flight unless you provide me with an alternative crew member. Summon Miller, instruct him to swallow some pain relievers, and get himself over here immediately. Captain Thorne paused, absorbing the reply, his features contorted with exasperation. 2 hours? Very well. Inform Mr. Caldwell of a technical malfunction, a faulty sensor. We will delay him. Just ensure Alara is removed from my aircraft. Captain Thorne violently returned the receiver to its base. He then faced Officer Kale. A look of self-satisfied victory etched upon his features. It's settled. Mr. Sterling is en route. You are relieved of duty. Officer Kale remained motionless, her gaze fixed intently on the flight management system. Mr. Sterling resides in Connecticut, given the current weather and traffic conditions. His arrival is at least 3 hours distant. Mr. Caldwell's convoy is merely 5 minutes away. Are you truly prepared to deceive a client and postpone a transatlantic journey? All due to your prejudice. That's called absolute command, Captain Thorne hissed. Now will you depart willingly, or must I summon airport security to forcibly remove you as an intruder? I am not trespassing, Officer Kale stated, her tone unwavering. I am the designated first officer, and for the official record, Captain. Fabricating a mechanical issue to a client constitutes a grave breach of both FAA regulations and company protocol. It's outright deception. It's safeguarding the investment. Captain Thorne roared, his face inches from hers, and you pose a direct threat to that investment. Just then, the cabin door swung open. Flight attendant Lena burst into the cockpit, visibly winded and drenched from the downpour, clutching a tray laden with catering provisions. She froze instantly, sensing the palpable tension within the cockpit. Captain, is everything all right? Flight attendant Lena inquired, her gaze flitting nervously between Captain Thorne's flushed face and Officer Kale's composed demeanor. No, Lena. It's nothing, Captain Thorne declared, adjusting his tie. Officer Kale here was just departing. She lacks the necessary qualifications for this flight. Flight attendant Lena glanced at Officer Kale. Lena was young, new to the airline, and easily cowed by Captain Thorne, who was infamous for reducing flight attendants to tears over minor infractions, like lukewarm coffee. Oh, I prepared a spot for the pilot's meal. Discard it, Captain Thorne commanded. Officer Kale is departing. Officer Kale unfastened her seatbelt with deliberate slowness. She rose. Her height nearly matched Captain Thorne's, and within the cramped confines, her presence was undeniably authoritative. She retrieved her bag. I will exit the cockpit so you may compose yourself, Captain, Officer Kale stated, but I am not abandoning this aircraft. I have a solemn duty to this flight. You step out of this cockpit. You step directly onto the tarmac, Captain Thorne menaced. If you are still aboard this plane when Mr. Caldwell arrives, I will personally ensure your rest. "You are making a grave error, Captain Thorne," Officer Cale asserted. It was the first instant she had uttered his given name, and it resonated with the weight of a dire warning. "The sole mistake was ever bringing you aboard," he shot back. Officer Cale strode past him, entering the opulent main cabin. Its interior boasted lavish cream leather seating, rich mahogany accents, and gleaming gold-plated fixtures. The air was fragrant with costly leather and the delicate scent of fresh orchids. She placed her bag onto a passenger seat near the front. "What in the world are you doing?" Captain Thorne demanded, pursuing her. "Disembark." "I am awaiting the client," Officer Cale declared, settling into a seat and crossing her legs. "If you intend to inform Mr. Caldwell that this flight is delayed due to a mechanical malfunction, I believe my presence here to observe is essential. Given that, by your own admission, I am not a real pilot, my presence in the passenger cabin certainly poses no threat to your safety." "Does it?" Captain Thorne's complexion deepened to a furious purple. He parted his lips, poised to unleash a furious shout. Precisely as a sleek black limousine glided to a halt beside the aircraft's boarding stairs outside. Through the rain-lashed windows, the piercing gleam of its headlights became visible. "He's arrived, Alara," a voice trembled, filled with dread. Cale cursed under his breath, a raw, guttural sound. "All right, stay put, and keep absolutely silent." Kel's voice was a low growl. "Utter a single syllable to Sterling, and I'll obliterate your future before it even begins. You're merely cargo now, a useless burden. Do you comprehend?" Lyra offered no reply. She calmly straightened the material of her pants, her gaze fixed on the entrance. The boarding ramp began its descent. Cale straightened his blazer, discreetly dabbed the perspiration from his upper lip, and adopted his commanding persona. It was a facade of self-assured, captivating power. He moved towards the entrance to welcome the magnet, leaving Lyra seated in the cabin's foremost row. He believed victory was his. He believed he had effectively muzzled her. He was on the verge of discovering that quietude could be the deadliest weapon imaginable. Victor Sterling was a man utterly unfamiliar with the concept of delay. As the chief executive of Apex Solutions, a defense contractor holding government authorizations surpassing those of many senators, his time was valued at thousands of dollars per second. He emerged from the downpour into the inviting warmth of the jet's interior, vigorously shaking a dark umbrella that a dedicated aide instantly relieved him of. He was a man in his sixth decade, with hair like spun silver, clad in an ensemble that outpriced Cale Vance's vehicle. He paid no mind to Alara, who quivered subtly as she presented him with a warm cloth. His gaze went directly to the vacant flight deck entrance, then settled on Cale, who stood in the passageway, a forced, contrite grin fixed upon his features. "Captain Vance," Sterling uttered, his tone deep and incisive, "we are airborne in 5 minutes. Is that accurate? The London Acquisition Summit has been expedited. I required to be aloft yesterday." Cale cleared his throat, fiddling with his necktie without cause. He cast an anxious look at Lyra, who remained composed in seat 2A, a luxurious, ivory-hued executive chair typically designated for the client's senior staff. She had retrieved a substantial technical handbook from her satchel and was engrossed in its contents with tranquil concentration, completely disregarding the men. "Mr. Sterling, sir," Cale commenced, his voice lowering to a hushed, conspiratorial tone. "It's a pleasure to see you. Regrettably, we've encountered a slight complication during the pre-flight inspection. I detected an irregularity in the secondary hydraulic system sensor. It's probably just a phantom reading, a faulty connection, but security is our utmost priority." Sterling's eyes tightened into slits. He consulted his timepiece, a vintage Patek Philippe. "A complication? I compensate for this aircraft precisely because it avoids such issues. Vance, what is the estimated duration?" "I've arranged for ground crew to arrive and recalibrate the system." Cale fabricated the statement effortlessly. He excelled at such deceptions. He had previously placated irate patrons, and to be entirely candid, we experienced a personnel scheduling oversight. A novice intern in the operations hub who lacks the certification for this transcontinental journey. I've summoned a more experienced substitute. Captain Thorne is en route. Sterling observed Cale, then his attention shifted to Lyra, A scowl creased his brow. An intern, you say? Cale subtly moved to the side, attempting to obstruct Sterling's line of sight to Lyra. Understood, sir. A mere oversight. She's already en route back to base. Her presence will cease to trouble you momentarily. May I propose relocating you to the exclusive VIP lounge within the FBO? It offers superior comfort, a complimentary bar, and secluded private suites. To hell with your lounge, Pendleton barked, flinging his coat onto the seat facing Naomi. My sole desire is to fly. If the maintenance crew is truly en route, I shall remain right here. I have urgent calls awaiting. Landon's internal alarms shrieked into a frantic crescendo. Should Pendleton persist in remaining aboard, he would inevitably uncover the truth. No maintenance crew was ever arriving. He would discern that Hoffman's arrival was still hours away. Landon's imperative was clear. Pendleton had to be disembarked from that aircraft. Sir, truly, the regulations stipulate that during maintenance. Vega, Pendleton abruptly silenced him, dropping with a thud into the seat directly opposite Naomi. Bring me a scotch, undiluted, and cease your loitering. Repair this aircraft. Landon became utterly rigid, ensnared. With a rigid, forced nod, he conceded, Yes, sir. Sarah, the scotch, now. He cast a searing, venomous gaze at Naomi, silently challenging her to utter a single word. Naomi, however, remained engrossed in her manual, deliberately turning a page with a sharp, unhurried rustle. Landon withdrew into the cockpit, sealing the door behind him under the guise of contacting maintenance. In reality, he intended to occupy the pilot's seat, drenched in cold sweat, frantically texting Hoffman to accelerate. Within the cabin, an oppressive silence expanded, punctuated only by the relentless drumming of rain against the fuselage. Sarah, her hands trembling visibly, nervously decanted a glass of Macallan 25 for Pendleton, setting it precariously on his table. Appreciated, Pendleton rasped. He took a measured sip, then fixed his gaze upon the woman seated opposite him. Naomi was absorbed in a passage detailing the G700's intricate fly-by-wire control laws. She sensed Pendleton's piercing stare upon her. She recognized his ilk, boardroom predators, acutely observant and relentlessly critical. And you? Pendleton queried. Naomi slowly raised her gaze, her expression composed and utterly professional. Mr. Pendleton, Vega claims you're a trainee, Pendleton remarked, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. You appear somewhat advanced in years for a mere trainee, and you're engrossed in the Master Minimum Equipment List manual. For a non-flying crew member, that constitutes light entertainment. Captain Vega is prone to numerous pronouncements, Naomi stated, her tone unruffled and impartial. He exhibits a preference for collaborating with a particular demographic. Regrettably, I seem to have encroached upon his established comfort zone. Pendleton's eyebrow arched subtly. He was a cutthroat magnate, yet far from foolish. Furthermore, he held no particular interest in Landon's trivial personnel disputes. His sole concern was demonstrable competence. He asserted that you lacked the necessary qualifications. I possess for 1,000 flight hours. Prior to transitioning to corporate aviation, I served as a check airman for a regional carrier, Naomi declared with understated authority. I am comprehensively type-rated for this specific aircraft. Pendleton hesitated, his gaze shifting from the sealed cockpit door back to Naomi. In that case, why are you not currently in the cockpit, preparing the engines? Vega reported a hydraulic sensor malfunction. Alara met his eyes directly. There's absolutely no sensor malfunction. Mr. Sterling, the aircraft is in impeccable working order. Captain Thorne is deliberately grounding this flight, solely because he refuses to pilot alongside a woman of color. He's currently awaiting a male pilot, who is en route from a neighboring state. That, sir, is the maintenance you're truly awaiting. A palpable chill seemed to descend upon the cabin. Mr. Sterling set his drink down, his features hardening instantly. Is that truly the case? He questioned, his voice sharp. I never fabricate. Sir, it's simply unproductive. Mr. Sterling's gaze remained fixed on her for an extended period. His mind was racing, not with thoughts of fairness, but with the disruption to his meticulously planned agenda. If her assertion held true, His pilot was brazenly deceiving him and squandering his valuable time due to sheer prejudice. Such an act was an unforgivable transgression in Mr. Sterling's universe. Miss Sterling's sharp command cut through the tension. The flight attendant flinched visibly. "Yes, Mr. Sterling. Retrieve Captain Thorne immediately. Inform him I demand an immediate update regarding that sensor." Marcus Thorne then emerged from the cockpit, discreetly wiping perspiration from his brow. He had merely been feigning a conversation with avionics support over the radio. He attempted his most charming smile, yet it appeared fragile, almost forced. "Sir, excellent news," he announced. "The maintenance crew is just arriving at the gate now." "Enough with the charade, Thorne," Mr. Sterling stated. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he spoke with the chilling, understated power of someone capable of acquiring and divesting entire corporations. "I've had a rather enlightening conversation with your trainee," Mr. Sterling revealed. Marcus's head whipped around to Alara, his eyes widening with furious indignation. "I explicitly ordered you to remain silent." He spat at her, momentarily forgetting the formidable presence before him. "Pardon me," Mr. Sterling interjected, his voice gaining volume. "Mind your demeanor. She asserts the aircraft is perfectly operational. She alleges you are deliberately delaying due to your personal biases. Listen, I couldn't care less who pilots this aircraft, Thorne. My concern is your blatant dishonesty towards me." Marcus let out a strained, nervous laugh, his hand trembling as he gestured towards Alara. "Sir, I beg you," he pleaded. "You're truly going to accept her testimony? She's merely a diversity recruit. She lacks understanding of the systems. She likely mistakes the auxiliary power unit for a simple beverage dispenser. I'm acting to safeguard you. I detected an anomaly within the hydraulic pressure transducer. Should we attempt liftoff, the landing gear steering will fail. Catastrophe awaits. Is a catastrophic descent your desire?" That audacious falsehood, uttered with the desperate conviction of a man clinging to his professional life. For a fleeting instant, Commander Thorne wavered. Not being an aviator himself, he was compelled to trust the specialist's judgment. Agent Cale snapped her book shut. The abrupt sound echoed, sharp as a judge's gavel striking its block. "The hydraulic pressure transducer for the secondary system on a G700 aircraft transmits data directly to the crew alerting system," Agent Cale declared, her voice piercing Pilot Vance's rising panic. Should a malfunction exist, an amber alert would illuminate on the primary display. Furthermore, a corresponding status message would appear on the synoptic overview. She rose to her full height, confronting Pilot Vance. She was physically smaller, yet her presence seemed to dominate. "Moreover, if you genuinely suspected a transducer malfunction, you wouldn't be idly awaiting a maintenance reset. Your immediate action would be to verify the backup channel. Yet you failed to do so, didn't you? Since no warning indicator is active, your claims lack any foundation." Pilot Vance roared, his complexion blotchy crimson. "The sensor's fault is sporadic. It doesn't consistently activate the CAS. Come, let us inspect it." Agent Cale dared. "Let us proceed to the flight deck this instant. If the malfunction is present, I shall disembark this aircraft and relinquish my authority. But if the panel displays clear, you will confess your deception." Pilot Vance obstructed the passageway. He physically impeded her access to the flight deck. "You will not set foot on my flight deck. This constitutes a grave security breach. Commander Thorne, I require your authorization to have this individual forcibly removed by law enforcement. She poses a direct threat to this flight's safety." Commander Thorne's gaze shifted from Pilot Vance's perspiring countenance to Agent Cale's unwavering composure. He rose to his feet. "Step aside, Vance," Commander Thorne commanded. "I said, move. We are going to examine the control panel. Should she be mistaken, incarceration awaits her. Should you be in error, however, the consequences will unfold." Pilot Vance's composure shattered. He absolutely could not permit them to view the screen. Its message was undeniably unambiguous. "Sir, I am unable to permit unauthorized personnel into the flight deck during. I am the proprietor of the charter corporation that leases this very aircraft to your operation." Commander Thorne thundered, "Out of the way." Pilot Vance recoiled, staggered by the sheer force of the magnate's bellow. He yielded the path. Agent Kale swept past him, her shoulder lightly grazing his. Exuding an aura of chilling intensity, Commander Thorne trailed behind. They pressed into the confined flight deck. The avionics displays shimmered with sharp, high-resolution information. "Where is it?" Commander Thorne demanded. "Reveal the anomaly." Agent Kale indicated the engine indication and crew alerting system ICA's display. The upper left quadrant. This is the designated area for warning notifications. It remains utterly blank. All systems indicate normal operation. Alara gestured towards the hydraulic system overview displayed prominently on the central monitor. "System 1, System 2, port, starboard," she stated. "The power transfer unit auxiliary. All pressures within normal limits. Every indicator glows green," Alara declared, then pivoted to face Kale. "You couldn't even be bothered to trip the circuit breaker to simulate the fault light, could you? Your idleness was profound. You simply presumed Director Thorne wouldn't verify," Alara challenged. Kale found himself trapped, his body quivering. His deeply held conviction of being the ultimate expert, the unquestionable authority, the superior intellect, shattered beneath the undeniable force of the evidence. Yet, rather than offering an apology, his wounded pride erupted into outright aggression. "It's merely a software anomaly," Kale hissed, his trembling finger jabbing accusingly at Alara. "She likely erased the error logs. She interfered with the system while I was in the aft section. That explains her presence here previously." "Sabotage? Are you accusing me of sabotage?" Alara questioned, her eyebrow arching in disbelief. "I am ready to depart, Captain. It is you who prevents our takeoff." "I refuse to fly with a..." Kale stammered, barely managing to halt his offensive remark. The unspoken insult lingered, a silent yet thunderous accusation. "With you, I absolutely will not proceed. It's hazardous. You are confrontational, you defy authority, and you lack the necessary skill. I hold the rank of captain. My directives are absolute. Should I declare this aircraft unserviceable, then unserviceable it remains." He spun towards Director Thorne, his gaze frantic. "Director, my actions are for your benefit and for the safety of these individuals. They are assigned responsibilities they are incapable of handling. I have witnessed this countless times. She will undoubtedly succumb to panic at 40,000 feet. She will be the cause of our demise. I absolutely refuse to authorize the release. I am keeping this aircraft grounded until Specialist Vance arrives." Director Thorne regarded Kale with unadulterated revulsion. The prejudice was now laid bare, shorn of any pretense of justification. "You intend to ground the aircraft?" Director Thorne inquired softly. "Indeed, until a truly capable co-pilot is assigned." "Are you, then, declining to honor the agreement?" Pendleton declared. "I am asserting my prerogative as captain." Landon's voice erupted in a sudden shriek. Then, a phone's insistent ring pierced the air. The sound wasn't from the aircraft's satellite phone. Instead, it emanated from a sophisticated personal mobile device tucked away in Naomi's pocket. That distinct ring sliced through Landon's furious yells. Naomi, with a swift motion, delved into her blazer. Extracting the device, she glanced at its display. "It's Leonard from Flight Operations," she stated coolly, her gaze fixed on Landon. "He's likely puzzled why we haven't begun taxiing." "Hand it over," Landon lunged. But Naomi agilely retreated, activating the speakerphone as she accepted the incoming call. "Naomi, it's Leonard." The voice resonated, sharp with concern. "Is everything in order? We've observed the APU active for 40 minutes, yet there's no sign of departure. Is Landon present?" "He is indeed here, Leonard," Naomi confirmed, her gaze unwavering on Landon. "Captain Vega has unilaterally grounded this plane. He utterly refuses to pilot with me. Furthermore, he has fabricated a non-existent mechanical issue to deceive the client." "What?" Leonard's voice shot up, a high-pitched gasp. "Landon, can this be true?" Landon pressed closer to the receiver. "Leonard, hear me out. She's a liability. I demand her removal from the flight schedule. I'm awaiting Hoffman's arrival, Landon." "Hoffman is stranded in Stamford, caught in an impenetrable traffic jam," Leonard bellowed. "Pendleton absolutely must reach London. You must depart immediately, or this contract is forfeit." "I absolutely refuse to fly with that woman," Landon thundered, terminate her employment, or I resign. A profound silence descended upon the connection. Then Naomi's voice broke it. A transformation had occurred in her tone. It was no longer the voice of an underling. It wasn't even the voice of a co-pilot. It was the commanding voice of an individual who oversees the finances of those who manage finances. "Leonard," Naomi articulated. "This is Naomi Banks. I am familiar with Naomi. Now, Leonard, just listen. Cease your chatter." The sheer power in her voice caused Landon to flinch. "Access the ownership records for this aircraft, specifically tail number N700 Alpha. Examine the details of the holding company LLC." "What? Why?" Leonard stammered, utterly bewildered. "Simply comply," Naomi ordered, her tone unyielding. Landon's brow furrowed. "What in the blazes are you attempting?" "Verifying the documentation," Naomi replied, her voice deceptively soft. "All right, I've got it," Leonard's voice echoed, accompanied by the rapid clatter of keys. "N700 Alpha, registered under NBA Aviation Holdings LLC. Yes, we handle its management for them." "What's your point?" "Click on the LLC, Leonard. Identify the primary signatory." A silence stretched, profound and tortuous. "The principal signatory is Naomi Banks." Leonard's voice plummeted to a barely audible whisper. "Hold on, you." Landon's expression dissolved into utter shock. His gaze darted from the phone to Naomi. "What? I am the owner of this aircraft, Leonard," Naomi declared, her voice chillingly devoid of warmth. "I acquired it merely 3 weeks prior. I entrusted it to your management specifically to observe your crew's operational standards. And I must confess, Leonard, my disappointment is profound." An oppressive stillness enveloped the cockpit. The rain had ceased, or perhaps Landon was simply deafened by the thunderous rush of blood pounding in his ears. Naomi advanced a single step towards Landon. "You declared you wouldn't fly with a liability. Captain Vega, you stated you wouldn't fly with a diversity hire. Well, behold the truth." She deliberately tapped the pilot's insignia pinned to her uniform. "You are not merely refusing to fly with your co-pilot. You are refusing to fly with your landlord. You are refusing to fly with the very owner of the seat beneath you." Naomi faced the bewildered magnate. "Mr. Sterling, my apologies for this individual's conduct. With your permission, I shall assume command of the pilot's position. Will be airborne within 10 minutes. A captain is not required. I fulfill that role." Victor Thorne remained rooted in the cockpit's center, his mouth agape, gasping for words. Much like a fish out of its element, the stark truth of the moment battled fiercely against the impenetrable fortress of his self-importance. "You possess this aircraft," he faltered, his voice stripped of its customary arrogance. "Unthinkable, you're merely a youth. He gestured aimlessly in her direction, incapable of completing his thought without further sealing his own fate. "I am 34 years old, Captain," Naomi stated, her voice sharp and unwavering. "I amassed my fortune through software innovations, long before I ever set foot in an aviation academy. Flight is my true calling. This jet belongs to me, and you are presently encroaching upon it." Mr. Davies continued to bellow through the intercom. Victor, disembark the aircraft. Do you hear me? Your service is terminated, effective at once." Victor looked at Mr. Sterling, desperately seeking an ally. "Sir, this is preposterous. You cannot permit her to pilot this craft. She's unstable. She's driven by malice." Mr. Sterling let out a hollow, grating chuckle. "Thorne, the sole thing she's undermined is your inflated self-regard. She owns this jet. She is intimately familiar with its intricate systems, and unlike you, she hasn't brazenly deceived me multiple times in the last 20 minutes. Mr. Sterling glanced at his timepiece once more. "You have 60 seconds to depart this area before my security personnel forcibly remove you. But who will occupy the co-pilot's seat?" Victor clung to a desperate hope, frantically attempting to assert his indispensability. "The G700 requires a 2-person crew. You cannot operate it solo. My presence is mandatory." Naomi retrieved her mobile device once more and dialed a number, offering Thorne not even a glance. "Hey Miller, it's Naomi. Yes, I'm at Teterboro on the tarmac. I know you're stuck in the FBO, awaiting your delayed charter flight. Care to earn a swift 5,000? I require a competent individual for the co-pilot's position for a short flight to London. Yes, our usual compensation, with an added incentive. Come immediately." She terminated the call and fixed Victor with an unflinching gaze. Captain Miller is a decorated ex-naval aviator. He possesses all necessary certifications. He's currently making his way across the airfield. Your services are not required, Victor. They never were. Victor felt a sense of impending doom envelop him. The degradation was absolute. He seized his flight bag, his knuckles stark white. He tried desperately to salvage a semblance of his pride. "You'll be hearing from the Union," he hissed. "This is unjust dismissal. You orchestrated my downfall." "I didn't orchestrate anything," Naomi countered, moving aside to allow his passage. "I merely illuminated the truth. You're the one who chose to reveal your true character." Victor exited the cockpit furiously. As he traversed the passenger compartment, Alara, the flight attendant, clung to the galley wall to evade any contact with him. She appeared visibly shaken, yet with a peculiar sense of vindication. Victor ignored her presence, striding purposefully toward the main exit. Outside, the downpour had ceased, leaving the airfield shimmering beneath the powerful floodlights. As Victor made his way down the air stairs, he spotted a younger aviator, Captain Miller, hurrying toward the jet, carrying a flight bag slung over his shoulder. Captain Miller looked up, saw Victor, and offered a perplexed gesture. Victor offered no reciprocal acknowledgement. He continued past him, plodding heavily toward the FBO terminal, a lone silhouette diminishing against the imposing backdrop of the colossal, gleaming aircraft. Inside the sleek cabin, Captain Eva claimed the captain's command chair. She calibrated it to her stature. A profound sense of belonging, of vindication, settled over her. Co-pilot Alex ascended the steps with urgency. A moment later, gasping slightly, he burst into the flight deck, spotted Captain Eva commanding the left seat, and a wide, knowing smile spread across his face. "Captain Eva, what's the situation?" I saw Pilot Vance storming off as if his world had crumbled. "Did he flunk a pre-flight inspection?" "Close enough," Captain Eva replied, securing her flight harness with a decisive click. "He failed a fundamental integrity assessment. We're behind schedule, co-pilot Alex. Let's launch this magnificent machine into the sky. Mr. Thorne has a critical merger awaiting finalization." "Understood, Captain Eva. Consider it done." 10 minutes later, the Gulfstream G700 thundered down the tarmac. Captain Eva's grip on the controls was unwavering, resolute. "V1, rotate," she declared with authority. She eased back on the control column, and the $60 million machine ascended majestically, defying the Earth's pull, piercing the inky New Jersey night. In the luxurious cabin, Mr. Thorne savored his fine scotch. He gazed out the window at the diminishing glow of the metropolis below. He retrieved his device and dispatched a terse message to his legal team. "Initiate the contract transfer documentation. I want all future flight operations reassigned to NB Aviation Holdings. Terminate the existing provider's services without delay." He took another sip. He preferred aligning himself with triumph. The journey to London was impeccable, utterly without blemish. Captain Eva executed a masterful landing at Luton Airport, descending with such exquisite precision that Mr. Thorne's beverage remained undisturbed. When he disembarked, he offered Captain Eva a firm, appreciative handshake. "A truly exceptional flight, Captain Eva," Mr. Thorne declared. "Expect communication from my corporate headquarters. I believe my company can forge a significant partnership with your enterprise." "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," Captain Eva responded. "Your understanding is greatly valued." "Back in Teterboro, I possess no tolerance for incompetence, Mr. Thorne replied, "but I have an abundance of regard for genuine skill." Captain Eva observed the departing motorcade, a profound sense of victory swelling within her. Yet, she knew the battle was far from concluded. Pilot Vance was not one to recede into the shadows without a fight. He was the type who would leave a trail of devastation in his wake. Back in New York, the repercussions had already started to unfold. Pilot Vance had utilized the duration of the flight. He was sitting in a bar near the airport, consuming copious amounts of alcohol and engaging in a flurry of urgent phone conversations. He contacted his union representative, his contacts within the aviation authority, and every pilot he knew who harbored resentment towards inclusive initiatives. By the time Captain Eva landed in London, Pilot Vance had fabricated a tale, a masterpiece of deceit, a narrative so elaborate it bordered on literary genius, according to him. Captain Eva, he alleged, had been antagonistic, unpredictable, and posed a physical menace. He claimed she had leveraged her financial standing to intimidate him, that she was a danger in the cockpit, and that he had withdrawn from the flight, citing grave safety concerns. He conveniently neglected to mention the bigoted remarks and the deception regarding the hydraulic system malfunction. When Captain Eva activated her mobile device in her London hotel room, she was met with a barrage of unanswered notifications. 3 urgent, bordering on frantic messages came from Alex, 1 from the charter company's vice president, and a final alert from an aviation forum she regularly visited. The forum's headline screamed, "Veteran captain ousted from flight due to diversity mandate." The billionaire owner, Marcus, had anonymously unleashed a tirade. Yet the specifics were blatantly obvious. The comment section was already exploding with venomous remarks. Pilots globally piling on without a grasp of the facts, savaging the allegedly unqualified diversity recruit. Naomi perched precariously on the hotel bed's edge, devouring the scathing remarks. "This is precisely why I've abandoned private air travel. Quality is plummeting." She likely acquired her certification as easily as her aircraft. Captain Sterling is a hero for holding his conviction. Safety above all else. This was a vicious defamation. Marcus was attempting to shatter her professional standing. Before she could even lodge a formal complaint, he aimed to render her career radioactive. He sought to guarantee that despite her ownership of the aircraft, she would be utterly unhireable. A pariah in the skies, Naomi felt a frigid, tightening coil of fury clench in her stomach. She could pursue a defamation lawsuit against him, but such a battle would drag on for an eternity. The court of public opinion, however, rendered judgment with blinding speed. She needed to eradicate this falsehood immediately, before it became an undeniable truth. She opened her laptop and accessed the secure portal to her aircraft's cloud server. The G700 represented the pinnacle of aerospace engineering. It meticulously logged every detail, from intricate flight data and critical engine parameters to precise cabin pressure readings. However, as the owner and meticulously vigilant about security protocols, Naomi had installed a covert, redundant recording system, a cockpit video and voice recorder that streamed instantly to her private cloud server. Operating continuously, it was primarily for safeguarding her investment, designed to shield her valuable asset in the event of theft or damage. Marcus remained utterly oblivious to its existence. He believed the sole CVR was the conventional flight recorder, impenetrable without a court order or an accident investigation. Naomi swiftly delved into the digital archives. The timestamp read, October 14th, time 19 o'clock EST. She initiated playback. The video was stunningly crisp, high definition 4K footage, offering a panoramic, all-encompassing view of the entire flight deck. The audio was pristine, unblemished. "I am categorically refusing to operate this flight with you because I am the captain, and my authority dictates who occupies that position." Marcus's voice boomed from the laptop speakers. "I see a mere diversity quota, a liability destined to endanger us all." He began to utter a vile racial slur. Naomi bore witness to the entire, appalling exchange. She watched him deceive Alex. She watched him mislead Director Miller about the critical hydraulic sensor malfunction. She watched him deliberately obstruct her passage. She watched his expression shatter in disbelief the moment he realized she was the aircraft's owner. It was utterly incriminating, far beyond merely unprofessional. It was professionally catastrophic. The fabrication regarding the alleged mechanical fault constituted a direct breach of federal aviation regulations. The derogatory racial epithet was a flagrant transgression of civil rights legislation. The act of physical intimidation was a clear act of assault. Naomi leaned back in her chair, a grim satisfaction settling over her. She possessed the ultimate, undeniable leverage. Officer Cullen possessed the power to simply forward this to the charter company, ensuring Captain Thorne's immediate dismissal. Such an action would undeniably align with professional conduct. Yet, Captain Thorne had abandoned all pretense of professionalism. Instead, he had taken his grievances to the public forums. He had actively sought to stir up a hostile crowd against her. His intent was to exploit his position, wielding his privilege as a weapon to utterly destroy her. The memory of his contemptuous sneer echoed in her mind. "I refuse to fly with liabilities." Officer Cullen then launched her video editing application. The raw footage itself remained untouched. Its unvarnished authenticity was crucial, however. She meticulously added captions, stark white lettering against a dark, solid backdrop. Captain Thorne Veigar asserted his departure from the flight was due to safety concerns. He specifically alleged that the first officer lacked the necessary qualifications. This, however, is the unvarnished truth of the events. With a decisive click, she exported the completed file. Accessing her various social media profiles, Officer Cullen, though not a prominent influencer, possessed significant connections within the aviation community. A substantial following acknowledged her presence. Her moment of hesitation lasted but a fleeting second. This act would utterly obliterate him, not merely his career, but his entire existence. He would be grounded, never to pilot an aircraft again. His very name would become an emblem of prejudice and sheer foolishness. "You desired this to be public, Captain Thorne," she murmured into the silent, vacant hotel room. "Very well, let the world see." She pressed post, then meticulously tagged the FAA, the charter operator, and all prominent aviation news agencies. Snapping her laptop shut, she moved to the mini bar, pouring a glass of effervescent water. Her gaze then drifted towards the window, surveying the sprawling London cityscape. The upload process concluded. The damning video was now broadcasting live, spanning continents. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit bar near Teterboro, Captain Thorne Veigar, sharing boisterous laughter with a companion, was buying a round of drinks, boasting about how he had dealt with that woman. His phone gave a faint buzz in his pocket, then another, before erupting into an incessant vibration. A relentless, urgent tremor pulsed against his leg. He scowled, extracting the device, and saw a message from his union representative. It contained nothing more than a solitary link. Captain Thorne tapped it. The color instantly drained from his face. His complexion blanched with alarming speed. He appeared on the verge of collapse. The raucous din of the bar receded into oblivion, supplanted by the chilling sound of his own voice, emanating from the small phone display, bellowing a hateful slur with crystal clarity. He lifted his gaze. The bartender was fixated on his own device. The individual beside him was also engrossed in his phone. Gradually, heads began to pivot, their gazes converging on him. A chilling realization dawned in their gazes. Victor Thorne's phone slipped from his grasp. The display shattered, yet the footage continued to stream. The digital era possesses an uncanny ability to hasten retribution. Previously, an individual such as Victor Thorne could have concealed his misdeeds, perhaps by transferring to another carrier or obscuring the event with bureaucracy. However, the video Alara unveiled transcended a mere grievance. It rapidly transformed into a cultural phenomenon. Within a mere 2 hours, the footage had spread from specialized aviation forums to social media platforms, then viral across the internet. The tag pilotage began to dominate trends, though Victor would soon discover that online monikers were considerably more merciless than those exchanged in the local pub. The ambience had dramatically soured from friendly warmth to outright animosity. The brawny bartender, a man who had poured drinks for Victor for years, approached and snatched away Victor's partially consumed beverage. "Hey, I hadn't finished that," Victor retorted sharply, his composure visibly unraveling. "You are now," the barman stated, his tone devoid of emotion. "My niece serves as a pilot in the Air Force. She is a woman of color. I witnessed the footage. Victor, you must pay your bill and depart." "It's a fabrication. It's been manipulated," Victor yelled, rising unsteadily. "That individual is attempting to incriminate me. The sole thing she captured was your visage in crystal clear 4K, uttering hateful remarks." A customer at an adjacent table bellowed back. Leave this establishment before I forcibly remove you." Victor staggered into the frigid night, his mobile device still buzzing insistently. He glanced at the screen, a message from Marcus in operations. "Do not report for duty tomorrow. Human Resources is dispatching your dismissal documents to your residence. Our legal department advises against any contact." Victor slumped in his vehicle, the engine silent and cold. He repeatedly struck the steering wheel until his knuckles were raw. "She lacks the authority to do this," he mumbled. "I hold the rank of captain. I possess 3 decades of experience." Yet the ordeal had merely commenced. The following morning, Victor awoke with a throbbing head to a reality that had utterly cast him out. His professional networking inbox, typically brimming with recruitment offers, was now inundated with vitriolic messages. However, the most chilling alert, it originated not from any social platform, but arrived through a certified email from the National Aviation Authority. The footage unequivocally demonstrated that Victor had misrepresented a mechanical malfunction, specifically concerning the hydraulic sensor, to a customer. From the perspective of the National Aviation Authority, this transcended mere inadequate client care. It constituted a deliberate misrepresentation of an aircraft's flight readiness. It cast serious doubt upon his professional integrity as an aviator. Alara didn't simply terminate his employment. She had presented the National Aviation Authority with irrefutable proof. 48 hours later, Alara occupied a seat in an elevated conference room in London. Gazing out over the River Thames, Mr. Sterling sat opposite her. The magnet appeared thoroughly content. "The footage has amassed 5 million views," Mr. Sterling observed, navigating his digital tablet. "And I must admit, the segment where you instruct him to review the LC documentation was quite dramatic." "I did not pursue this for the viewership, Mr. Sterling," Alara stated, pausing to sip her tea. "My motivation stemmed from the belief held by individuals like Victor Thorne, that they possess dominion over the skies. They presume they can dictate who is permitted in the flight deck, based solely on their biases. I felt compelled to demonstrate to him that the rules of access have fundamentally shifted." "Indeed, you accomplished precisely that," Mr. Sterling chuckled. "Incidentally, I had a discussion with the board members at Nexus Dynamics. We are severing ties with our former charter operator due to unacceptable risks. We wish to forge an exclusive partnership with NB Aviation Holdings, contingent upon your role as the lead aviator for my flights." A knowing smile touched Naomi's lips. It was a lucrative agreement valued in the millions. "I believe I can make ample room in my calendar for you, Arthur," she affirmed. As Naomi solidified her professional trajectory, Landon watched his own crumble. The FAA investigation proved rapid and decisive, bolstered by irrefutable video evidence. There was no room for conflicting testimonies. The deliberate fabrication of a mechanical fault, coupled with his prejudicial behavior, a clear breach of the fundamental good moral character stipulation often cited in transport regulations, culminated in an immediate, severe order of license revocation. Captain Vega was stripped not only of his position but, more profoundly, of his very wings. Half a year later, the Teterboro tarmac was alive with the hum of peak season activity. Naomi was striding purposefully towards her Gulfstream G700, now adorned with a fresh livery featuring the NB Aviation logo prominently on its tail. She was joined by a promising young cadet under her mentorship, a Latina aviator named Sophia, who had recently earned her commercial pilot certification. "The G700 represents a significant leap, Sophia, but the core tenets of aviation endure," Naomi was explaining. "Revere the aircraft, honor your team, and perpetually seek knowledge," Naomi instructed. "I'm a touch apprehensive, Captain Banks," Sophia admitted. "Controlled apprehension hones your focus, but unchecked hubris invites disaster," Naomi replied. Just as they approached the security checkpoint, a shuttle bus designated for airport ground staff came to a halt nearby. A man in a neon yellow safety vest descended from the bus, equipped with a litter grabber and a weighty plastic sack. He appeared prematurely aged, his features drawn and hollow, his shoulders stooped in defeat. He was employed by an external contractor, meticulously removing detritus from the perimeter fencing to mitigate the risk of foreign object damage. FOD, it was Landon. His gaze lifted as the two aviators walked by. He saw the brilliant gold stripes on Naomi's shoulders, catching the sunlight. He saw the sleek G700, a distant silhouette on the tarmac. That very aircraft, once his domain, the one he had deemed himself too superior to share with her. He became momentarily rigid, their gazes locked. Naomi did not falter, nor did she betray any hint of scorn or amusement. Instead, she offered a brief, businesslike acknowledgement, the sort reserved for an unfamiliar face, and continued her stride. Landon watched her depart. He watched her ascend the boarding stairs of the magnificent jet he was forever barred from entering. He witnessed the hatch seal shut. Minutes later, he watched the awe-inspiring machine roll forward, then roar skyward, abandoning him amidst the swirling dust and deafening roar, clutching a bag of refuse. He had once refused to fly with her. Now, he would never again command the skies. The scales of justice had not merely tipped against him, they had irrevocably clipped his wings, grounding him forever. This story stands as a stark and unforgiving testament. Hubris is the most treacherous companion. In the cockpit, Captain Vega believed his rank and background entitled him to diminish Naomi. Yet he failed to grasp that genuine authority rarely needs to assert itself with noise. It operates with quiet precision, always backed by undeniable evidence. Landon's downfall wasn't merely a consequence of his cruelty. He lost everything because he profoundly misjudged a black woman, mistaking her for a token diversity appointment when, in reality, she held the reins of command. In the end, the vast expanse of the sky held no regard for his inflated ego, nor did the Federal Aviation Administration. He discovered a harsh truth, that attempting to sever another's flight path without justification often results in the severing of one's own. If you found this narrative of soaring justice and swift retribution compelling, please consider pressing the like button. Your support significantly aids this channel's growth. Be sure to share this gripping video with your friends and subscribe for more intense real-life sagas. Witness the arrogant finally face their well-deserved reckoning. If you believe Naomi absolutely dominated this situation, make your voice heard by commenting Team Naomi below. We're grateful for your viewership.